Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. This week, I'm joined by the awesome Ritte from Kangaroo Ridge Retreat. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. Just something that we always do before we do any of our presentations and everything is an acknowledgement of country. So I just wanted to acknowledge that the land on which we're recording today, the Wurundjeri country, and the elders past and present. We just want to acknowledge any of our First Nations listeners to this. This is a pretty international podcast, so greetings to the US and all other First Nations people listening today. Thank you. Sorry, Bart. Continue.
No, thank you very much for that acknowledgement. I think it's incredibly important and not something that we have done in the past, but something that definitely I find important and something that when you mentioned it, I was like, of course we should. And if I could go back in time and forward and just kind of incorporate it all, I think it's very, very important. So thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Rebecca, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's a bit of a foggy morning where you are. You're out in the Yarra Valley. You run an unbelievable operation. We've been in contact with each other for maybe, 3 or 4 years, pretty much, I think, within months of me starting my business. And you've been achieving great things with Kangaroo Ridge. So, one, thanks for coming on the show. 2,
Pleasure.
thanks for being awesome and having a great accommodation. And it's great to see your success in the industry and you achieving some goals. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into it, maybe what I'll do is ask you to maybe introduce yourself and give some people some context as to the kind of business that you run.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Bart. Thank you so much for having me today. It's quite a muggy, foggy, strange day, as you mentioned, and here up on the ridge. Myself and my partner Simon, we run Kangaroo Ridge Retreat, and we took over Kangaroo Ridge Retreat in 2017, and previously it was a self-contained 2 cabins on the side of a ridge looking east, and since then we've done some refurbishments. We've got internet in the cabins, as you can see. We're sitting in the cabin and I'm streaming with you right now. And what we've always been doing is making sure that we create a wonderful guest experience, and that's been the forefront of what we've done. So everything that we put in here with the customer focus, or our guest focus, and saying, is this going to make an amazing experience? Then we put it in here. So internet, streaming, but what really is great about here is the view. And if I can, I don't know if I can move the camera.
Yeah. Do it. Go for it. Yeah.
To the view. And each one of our cabins has this.
Yeah, I was going to say that this is something which is so unique, right? Like it's so rare. Like, of course, you've got different places that have amazing views, but to have the luxury experience, to have the right experience, the right accommodation paired with the view, that's something that just doesn't happen that often.
I have to give kudos to John and Olga, who actually built Kangaroo Ridge in the early 2000s, and they created these amazing cabins on the side of the hill, or side of the ridge. So I wish we could have claimed that, but it's not. But what's really fantastic about the Yarra Valley is no matter where you stay or go, you're going to have an amazing view. We're just one of the lucky places that has a 360-degree view of the valley, both sides, east, west, north, and south. Well, all sides, not all.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. The cabins tend to look east, but we have a lot of experiences that take in the 360 degrees and the kangaroos, and we're very.
So you've got some pretty insane sunrises that happen, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah, and sunsets. But sunrises are the thing that the guests will get, whether they like it or not. So we've got block out curtains. Someone's had a big night the night before, like a wedding night. They can block it out and then deal with it the next day.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, yeah, no, that's cool. And so there's only 2 units at the moment?
At the moment, we would love to build a third. A third one was started by the previous owners, but because we are in Yarra Valley, it's a bushfire zone. They experienced the fires in 2009 down here, successfully defended the area. Everybody in the Long Gully region was safe. But as a result of that, they never got through the next stage because they had to rebuild a lot of fences and establish it again. So we're hoping to build that, but we've got to work really closely with the council with that. So.
Yeah, amazing. And so when you bought the place, you'd have had a bit of a vision in terms of what you can achieve, right? And you say, okay, we can be more profitable if we add more units, right? That's always the common denominator. But you can also drive more profitability by creating a unique experience, by providing a better level of service, by adding more amenities, by doing all these different things, like you said. I mean, Wi-Fi, of course, you'd think it's quite basic, maybe not so much in the Yarra Valley.
No.
But my point being is that from your vision point of view, you would have had different opportunities that you could seize to try to make more money or to make the business viable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you guys have done it by creating a premium experience. Can you kind of walk me through some of your thinking and how you got to where you are?
So when we started, it was so obvious really what they were offering and had about the view, and we're pretty isolated. I wouldn't say, no, isolated is the wrong word. I would say secluded. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the places that a lot of the guests really seek out is that you don't see anyone else, you're here by yourself. And I put a pretty big warning before people arrive here and say, we'll warn you now, once you get up here, you won't want to leave. And therefore, that offered opportunity in that we could offer those there here. Also, we didn't have any delivery service. So forget pizza, forget any burger delivery or anything like that. They just won't come up here. And
Mm.
it's also, that is a challenge when it comes to the services that we deliver as well. Like if someone's delivering our linen and that sort of thing, the negotiation on the back end has also been a challenge. But that provided us with a really, really whopping opportunity to offer those services ourselves. So we
Mm-hmm.
looked at getting the food class, we looked at getting a license so that we could actually sell alcohol. So we offer over 20 different types of wine here that you can just peruse through and have a wine tour in the cabin. Don't have to worry about driving, don't have to go back down that driveway. It's not that bad, but it's a kilometre long, and you don't have to, you can sit, enjoy your wine, and listen to the kookaburras. If you can hear them, they're in the background right now. But
Yeah. No, I can't hear them, but maybe when I listen back to it later on, I'll be able to pick them
yeah,
up and then accentuate them a little bit. And I think that's the great thing about, I guess, Australia in general is we have these unique views and we have this unique wildlife. Kangaroo Ridge, obviously, you're going to see kangaroos when you go there, and other kind of wildlife. I love the idea that it's secluded. You've got the unique views, which is great, and then you've paired it together with some unique offerings. And getting your liquor license and getting and serving food and that sort of thing, it's not a trivial task. You do have to put some thought, effort
yeah.
into it to get yourself there. But then you can offer something that is quite unique with the seclusion as well.
Yes, so I guess the challenges that I've had in the recent past has been the having to transition from self-contained to being a service. We use a really hidden hosted experience where
Mm.
everything has been prepared for our guests, and therefore basically all they have to do is pack their next day clothes and then come, because we've also got pajamas here ready to go, so you don't need to bring anything. So that's been quite a challenging transition. And just in the last 6 months, our local council's changed up our waste, like the waste collection units, and they've got an organics bin and the recycling bin, and
Hmm.
reduced the general waste. So instead of having a weekly waste, our general waste being taken away is every fortnight, and it's literally it's more than halved how much we can actually dispose. So that meant that we had to prepare our guests to say, you can't bring anything with you because we know how to handle our trash. We'll sort it and then
Yeah.
we'll put it through the waste. And so
Take
that,
your take your trash with you.
yeah. So it's really a non-BYO style of offering. And while it's fantastic where most guests get it, but when we get a big pile of leftovers, it's one of our
Yeah.
challenges, we're
Totally,
working on.
totally get that. And I think that we've got guest expectation. But what I want to do is I want to rewind a little bit because, folks,
Sure.
today I wanted to, or the reason why I got Rebecca on the show is because she and Simon, or Rebecca and Simon, won a gold award at the Victorian Tourism Industry Council Awards.
That's correct.
And that's a huge achievement because Victoria is a large state. There's a lot of people that enter, there's a lot of different offerings. And this was done over a series of steps over a bunch of years for you to
That's
get
correct.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's huge value that you can bring. And there's two things that I want our audience to think about when you're thinking about your accommodation. One is, how would I apply for an award, and is it something that I'm capable of doing? And then, what are the commercial benefits of even kind of striving to apply for awards and potentially winning them? And one of the things that I think a lot of people get into their head when they're building their business, like, oh, I could never win an award. I could never do it. It's not, I don't have a view like Rebecca does, right? I'm not on a ridge, but that doesn't preclude you from providing an experience that can be award winning. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the process of applying for awards, because Rebecca is very, very good with applications. Because we applied for one
There's a
together
history in that, yes.
years ago, and then but then also the product and everything else. So tell me a bit, sort of. I take it you've applied for a bunch of awards in the past, and tell me the sort of the process that you go through in terms of even just rationalizing whether you should apply for an award or not.
So I guess I back up. This was actually the first award that we applied for. Like, yeah, it has taken a series of not attempts, but it has had a series of build-ups towards it. So that the VTIC application for the tourism awards is actually quite it's a mammoth task, so therefore you do need to build up to it. And I have to give kudos to a little bit of my background in research, and that a lot of my experience has been in grant writing, so I guess that's why I fast tracked the actual application. But going back to that, had a we wanted to look professional from the beginning. We wanted to play we wanted to join the game amongst the industry, so that it wasn't a side hustle. It wasn't I've got a hobby business on the side. In 2018, I finished working at the university and actually started working in Kangaroo Ridge Retreat full time. And so therefore getting the respect within the Yarra Valley and other businesses that are in the Yarra Valley meant that we would need to be accredited, and also start hitting up and getting into the magazines and getting paid and getting attention from the industry itself. So that was our goal about why we're doing the things that we're doing for the award and also the accreditation. And also to so where am I? So when to actually do the award, the first time I attempted was last year, so the 2021-22 financial year. However, I think a lot of our colleagues in the industry recognized that year was a massive year. So we were running at 150% essentially. So the time that I had available to actually commit to the application process meant that I just couldn't give it the attention that it needed to. So, and I didn't want to do just an application. I wanted to do an excellent job. Yeah. And so I withdrew from that round. And this year, at around June this year, another thing our colleagues might actually recognize, that there's been quite a downturn. So there was a lot more free time in terms of what I could do. I'm focusing on the business and trying to refocus what we're doing. So that's when I was able to apply with a lot more spare time or spare capacity to do it. I linked up. Prior to actually applying, I was already linked up with our regional tourism council. Excuse me. No, that's okay. My phone's ringing, but I don't need to answer it right now. So I had I linked up with the regional tourism, and also prior to that, we'd been with Yarra Tourism Network, Yarra Valley, the business owners in the industry, which you're also part of. So I already was talking with like-minded businesses and networking through the businesses, but through the regional tourism, there I was linked up with a mentor. They actually had uh, some funding to support people to apply for the awards, and so I was linked up with a mentor who helped me guide answering the questions. She didn't write it at all, but she was making sure that I was answering the
Mm,
questions that were asked by the Victorian Tourism Council, to actually make sure that I had all my points ticked off when they were assessing the application. To give an idea of how big it is, you have to submit, I think, more than 12 pictures and visuals, and 10,000 words over 5 questions. So it's quite a big
wow.
application, and
Yeah.
very reminiscent if you've ever had to do a grant proposal or a tender or something like that, where you talk about your expertise, about your business, you've got your marketing campaign, and if you've already established these documents prior to actually applying, you're already fast forward. So being accredited, I
Makes
had
life a
those
lot
already.
easier.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so that was what was that's what made it. I was able to
Yeah.
do it, but there are businesses that haven't gone through the accreditation process or the other things through VTIC who also have won awards. So it's not necessary, but it's a build up, as you described before.
Yeah, and that's right. So, I mean, there's a few things that you were super conscious of. So, one was how you're going to represent your business in the first place, and that is the enabler to potentially win the award, which I'm going to come back to in a second, because I think that's incredibly important, and I want to get some of your thoughts as to why you would do it that way, and that transition from side hustle to being recognized, and why that's potentially important. Uh, the interesting thing is that you kind of admitted that you kind of gave it a go and you went, all right, we're halfway there, and now we've had a look at it, and geez, this is a big application and there's a lot of work that's going to go into it. Not that you're afraid of the work, but just going, we're going to be in a better position now that we understand it a bit better to then apply the following year. And I think that that's the first key step in any kind of award, is really understanding what it entails
Yeah, that's
and
true.
what kind of workload you're going to be under to get there. Because a lot of these things we have, right? It's like doing your taxes or whatever. A lot of the stuff, if you're well prepared, it's easy, right? It's you've got everything ready, you've got all your receipts, you just put
Yeah.
them into Zero, and you're done within half a day or however long, right? But if you're not prepared and
Um,
you don't have these things sorted, they're all there, right? You've got everything that you need, but they're all over the place. And then all of
mhm.
a sudden, you need to pull this information data together. And that was where you had your struggle from the first year. And then you're like, all right, this is what I need to do. And then it just allowed you a bit more room to go, okay, we're going to have to think about what photos we're going to need. We're going to have to think about how we're going to answer these questions and make sure that we're ready for them for the following year. Is that about right?
That's pretty correct. Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell, yeah. But with that said, also the big companies, for example, like Zoos Victoria, or like the big tourism operators that you see in
Mm,
your industry, they also have teams that do this. So that's why they regularly apply. And so I entered in the hosted accommodation section, so that's the typical bed and breakfast accommodation, and the typical operator in the bed and breakfast space are families,
mums and
they're
dads, yeah.
mum and dad. So
Yeah.
they're doing everything. They're doing the accounting. They're doing the changeovers. They're doing the whole the guest service. So it's a big call to actually have all of those things ready to go, or to write about those things. So it's not something that you can go, okay, this year we're going for an award. It's more that we're going to an award, and my goal is to finish
Mhm.
it, and then build on that further. And that's how I attempted it. I was just I had a lot prepared, apparently. But also, sorry, I have to, and I forgot to mention this before, and one of the big things that we take in our business is we collaborate. None of what we do for Kangaroo Ridge Retreat I've done myself. I've done it with a group of people, and that's been partnerships with other businesses. That's been within the networks of the business. There's yourself as well on when we talk about industry and the small little ideas that we go. I've got a lot of business partners in terms of the offerings that I get that are with champions that I think are doing a really fantastic job. So I'm not alone. And in that regard, for this application, not only did I have a mentor, prior to getting the mentor, I'd actually partnered up with Hoppit, one of the biggest, we're huge fans of Hoppit and what they do. And for your listeners and your watchers at the moment, they're a little, I don't think they're little anymore, but they're a hop on, hop off business, and they are bringing guests from Melbourne and out into the regional areas of Victoria. It's fantastic, and there is quite a difficult aspect of being in the Melbourne and jumping into, say, Yarra Valley. So they're offering that service. And because we're friends and we work together, the collaboration is we read each other's applications. And we saw it from how I see their business, and I commented it and say, you do this great, you do this great, you do this great. And because you're working inside, you don't generally get to see the forest for the trees. And they did the same thing with us. So partner up with someone else, not necessarily another person that you're competing with, another business that you're competing with, but there are other businesses in the local area that you can actually both benefit from it. Incidentally, Hoppit also got gold. So it does work.
Like the crack team, huh?
So
Look,
yeah.
the big learning from this, and when we set up iBooked Online, the Tourism Network Yarra Valley was one of the first ones that I joined, and I remember even talking to I think Christine might have been the president or used to be the president, and she's like, "Oh, you should join and pay the fees." And I'm just starting my business. I'm like, "Oh, where am I going to put all my money?" Right? I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll join this network." And then the payback isn't instantaneous. It's all about building those relationships and getting to know everyone. What I really want to know from you, Rebecca, like I understand, I know very well why you're part of TMYB and that you're networking. The one thing that I want to learn is, you said that at the start of the business or at the start, you wanted to represent yourself in a certain way before kind of doing that network to become, I think you might have said an industry player or I might be misquoting you, but I'm really interested to hear your philosophy. I mean, like, ultimately, you've only got 2 rooms that you can sell. You've got a limited capacity in terms of stock. You could potentially just put your property onto an OTA and off you go, right? Like you can, just sell in that way. But there's value that you saw in building something more substantial and to gain credibility. Why was that important to you to build that credibility? And then what difference do you think it's made in the business?
I guess, and I don't want to deride what everyone else's business model, because it's all due to total respect to people who just do it as a weekend thing and have like as a side little hobby. I tend to, myself, my partner as well, don't tend to do things like that. So it's not a hobby. And if I want to spend some amount of time thinking about something, I want to do either be the best or amongst the best. And being a leader within what we offered was something from the go-get. And also we had a mortgage to pay off, so I wanted to make sure I could squeeze as much as I could out of what I could potentially make out of the cabins. So that meant having a system of book direct, because you're looking at those commissions when you sell through an OTA. It's quite a big bill at the end of the month that you get if you have a large proportion of your guests coming through there. And it's also a competitive space, so you're also competing on price amongst the guests that are coming and staying overnight. So I wanted to get the biggest bang for my buck, I guess, for what we offered. And coming from Melbourne, I know how people can be quite discerning in their taste. And yes, I know what I like to get, so I thought that was something
Sure.
quite missing from the millennial market, particularly when we first started in the bed and breakfast space, because I didn't find anything that really quite catered for what we were after, which was, I want a view, I want everything on hand, I don't want to go anywhere, but also I don't want to pay an inflated minibar price. I want to actually be able to experience what it is to be like a local here, and
Mm,
that's similar to what Airbnb is offering. Be live like a local and be hosted. So there's a lot of learnings from Airbnb that we
mm,
did that in the past as well, just hosting
sure.
a room in our house, but. Um, that's when we started, the potential with the view was just so obvious that we just built upon that and said, when the view goes, so when the fog comes up, you look in the room because there's no view to
Yeah.
look at. It's complete whiteout, and then so trying to make this a beautiful space, a comfortable space, was the
Mm,
second part of it. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then I really resonate with a lot of what you're saying, and there's when you can create a higher value product through putting together a really great experience and dealing with something that's quite limited. One of the other things I wanted to ask was about the you wanted to be seen amongst your peers as being professional. That was something that you mentioned. Can you kind of run me through why that's important or why that was important to you?
There, I don't. It's a slight insult when you get asked, "Oh, so you run an Airbnb?" So, and then anybody who has more than one and has a managing group and they have more than one, so that's why I don't want to say deride a person who has one Airbnb and say, but there's a slight when you're at a different, you're running this as a business and as something that you're living. You've got a team that you're supporting. You're supporting
Mm,
locally as well, like local businesses as well. So coming back saying, "Oh, so." I run a B&B, Airbnb too. You're like, yep,
yeah.
fantastic, excellent. So tell me about what you do. And so, but it's a little bit, yeah, it's a pride thing, I guess, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do want to be able to go to another business who has making an amazing wine, for example, is becoming very well known for it, and say, hey, we've got I'm from Kangaroo Ridge, and we'd like to see if we can sell your products in our cabins, to not be ignored and to actually go, oh yeah, that would be great. If we partner up, we can actually create an amazing experience together. So that's I can tell you, when you first started in a supporting local, when you just start going and say, hey, I've got a bed and breakfast and I would really like to have your products, you generally go, oh yeah, you get a response of, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
lovely. That would be nice
Yeah.
if you have it." But
Because you don't know whether it's going to go anywhere, right? It's got
exactly,
nothing to do with the person, right? It's
no,
got
it
nothing to do with
doesn't.
that. You don't know them, but you've just heard the story so many times that okay, that's great, and then you're like, well, you need to see that effort being put in of where they're going to go and where they're going to take it, and their kind of involvement in the community. And what I really like about it is that you've got sort of two benefits. One is obviously for your supply and products and all those sorts of things, but also from the other side that you talked about already is from ideas, right? And understanding what's going on in your local area and being able to work together collaboratively towards to bettering ourselves as business owners, because it's bloody hard on your own when you don't have a team of people, when you don't have massive cash coming in. There's a lot of things that you don't have. There's a lot of benefits also that you gain by being on your own, but it can also be quite challenging, and having that network of people can be great. And the more you can show that you're doing cool stuff, then the more people will have more meaningful conversations with you.
That's, yeah, very true. And also, I guess in prior to the lockdowns, a lot of businesses came to us talking about our social media, because we've got a millennial market. Our social media was quite in the forefront of our marketing. And I mean, it's broad. Our market's broadened now, so
Yeah,
but in the
sure. Yeah,
beginning,
it's changed.
we were really we were really focused on providing a millennial for our millennial market, and so that we were approached quite a few times for that, and also the IT stuff in the background with our website,
Mm.
because it's I would say, quite a nice website.
Yeah, pretty
um,
good. No, I've always had a huge amount of respect for you in terms of what you've built and how it looks. Um, there's a lot of elements that we could easily borrow and add into our websites that we build for people. Um, So I think you've done a great job, and I guess that's another thing that lends itself to having you on the show. It's for people to go and have a look and see what's actually possible, even at a smaller scale.
Yeah,
You can build these websites.
that's true. And I guess the biggest challenge I think I have is that, yes, we're ambitious, which is pretty obvious from the go-get of where we wanted to stand amongst our colleagues, but our scale is small. So when you talk about the scale and what's on offer for our scale, we're one of the biggest challenges. One of the other challenges that we have is actually the cost benefit of certain things. Because
Mm,
if you've got a subscribe it like an emailing list that has a subscription, if you've got your booking engine has a subscription, and you've got so all the different things that you could do that would be amazing add-ons to what you do, they start adding up. So you need to keep him. I try to, and I guess that's Simon's role in our partnership here, is that he reminds me of what our key thing is. So
mm,
when the lockdowns happened, while that was a very challenging period, it's also, because it was so challenging, meant that a lot of creativity was
sure.
as a result of that. So we just released our pajamas, but as a result of releasing the pajamas meant that we we could now put on online shop.
Yeah.
But trying to find online shops templates or online hotels that have an online shop was actually there was hardly any. I think I could find only about three, one in Denmark, one in Melbourne, and the Lon Retreat had one, which was fantastic. I was like, oh, finally someone that I can see how they're actually positioning their shop as more than just a
Mm,
souvenir shop, for
yeah.
example. Other things, different experiences, making sure you're online, having a window sharing, having Wednesday winos, for example. So there's like this um, big maintaining this creativity that, and the lockdown kind of allowed that. But once we opened back up, going back to focus on what our core business was, had yeah, I've forgotten where I was leading with this, but it's meant that you can. Yeah, I've completely forgotten where I was going. Do you remember where I started?
All right. I don't know where, 'cause we started from the website and then you went into the online shop and that sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
thing.
So
Um,
going back to there. Yeah, so bringing it back
yeah,
into the online shop and trying to actually remember who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then having an online presence that actually shows that. So yeah,
yeah.
there's been a few iterations of everything. So
Yeah, awesome. So look, I'm looking at those pajamas in the background, and you've done that little head sway a few times now. It's like, oh, we need to get some of those. So everyone, start ordering some. Can people order them if they haven't stayed with you?
yeah, we've got a online. You can book them online if you like. We've got an
There
online
you
shop.
go.
So.
So I'll be interested to see over time how many people buy them off the
Yeah.
back of this. But I want to, as we're sort of rapidly firing through time, I want to kind of just quick fire through the awards and quick fire through some of the key concepts, some of the key ideas, what you won the award for. The benefits of it, I think I've covered in other episodes in the past, and I think that we don't need to labor that point. What I would like to know is what was the main criteria that allowed you to win your award?
I'm not quite sure, actually.
Okay.
um,
So what were they asking for
so
though?
you
What were the
got
main
asked.
things?
So you got asked about your business plan, your marketing plan. I think what you were actually you're assessed within the financial year period. So you have certain projects that you wouldn't actually be doing when you run your business that you've
Hmm.
implemented over time. So I had to talk about those projects, and which is a bit disappointing because the 2021 thing was the pajamas, and I couldn't talk about the pajamas in this
Yeah.
application. And uh, we're almost sold out, so I'm pretty proud of them. But
Get on it quick.
I know, but but and then your sustainability and and your contribution to the industry. So it's quite a holistic way of looking at your business. And if you're just starting, it's pretty difficult to have examples of everything that
Mm,
you can fill up. But I think. I, I'd like to say our point of difference, which is not being in the traditional bed and breakfast market and not competing at the self-contained level, which is what a lot of the Airbnbs would fall into, where they've got their own kitchen, and
Sure.
really
Yeah, yeah.
differentiating ourselves within that, and having this hidden hosted experience where we're hands off, but we set up everything and get it ready for the guests before they arrive.
And I think we talked about it over Christmas, and I think you said that the some of the judges actually came to visit.
Um,
Is that right, or is
no, my
that was it
mentor
no?
did. Well, no, I'm
Oh,
not
your
sure.
mentor did.
My mentor came to have a look at what we offered.
Okay, cool.
I'm not sure if the judge. Oh no, so you do get a site visit. That they do. So you get a site visit as part of the application
The application,
process,
yeah,
and
cool.
having all your documents in order and not being nervous when they do that is a tip I would give you. So I think I distracted him a little bit with my extensive wine list, because we had all the wines out, and he was part of the wine industry, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, oh
It's,
my gosh!" I'm
so
like,
is that
"Yes."
that's the secret.
Meanwhile,
And
I was
I
looking
think,
for my to-do
yeah,
list.
and I think that's something which is really important. I mean, like all these little value adds. There's another client I work with called the Post and Telegraph, and they're also into wines and whiskeys and all sorts of great alcohol. But the problem with expensive wine is that you can't drink a whole bottle unless you've got enough people to drink the bottle with, and then they found a way to reseal the bottle, like to take all the oxygen out, and there's some sort of a system. Okay, I don't know this system, no idea how it works, but apparently it can be done. So you can preserve the wine and then have it for way longer, and then you could share it across multiple guests. And I remember talking to the owner; he's just so excited. He's like, "I can't wait to share all these great wines with people." And that's the same sort of thing. I think they've got like 4 or 5 rooms. They're not huge, but they want to create a unique and special experience for people. And that's kind of what you guys are doing as well, which I imagine would have lent itself towards the awards. And I think also that aiming to be professional, aiming to run it as a bit like as a business, not as a side hustle, and to represent yourself in a certain way. I think that would lend itself very well to
Yep.
being deserving of those kind of awards. It's not just about the view, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think the view is not a crutch that we in the beginning we lent on it, because we didn't have very much in the back
Mm,
in the cabins. I was looking at some of
yeah,
the
sure.
photos from our early times. That back wall was completely bare. We didn't have that
Sure.
bed head, for example. That bed head was just by chance. My grandmother felled a tree in Hillsville, and the
Yeah.
guy who felled it was like, "Please don't let her burn it for firewood," because she had a fire oven pretty much going on 24/7. She was 90 years
Right.
old, and so he convinced her to cut planks, and they were like almost 5 meters long. And we were lucky enough to get two of those planks and stick them on the wall. Like,
Wow.
so there's a bit of a story behind that. But I was going. Something spurred me on that. Sorry, I've lost track again.
No, that's all right. Look, I guess the main thing is creating those points of difference. When you're applying for award, have a
Yeah,
look at those awards before you do one. That costs you nothing to go and have a look at what the criteria is, what the
that's
process is,
true.
and start to get your stuff together and get yourself organized. Also, think of your business in a professional way and strive to always do better. Other things that we've learned today is networking. So, getting together with your local communities,
Yep.
meeting people, meeting local businesses, being involved in the local area is important. It doesn't matter what size of business that you are. Is there anything else that you feel that we should be sharing with people in terms of awards and that sort of thing?
I think the biggest thing was the collaboration part of it, and the collaborations that we have to our core with what we do. Because if you work together, you all come together. You all build up together. And
Mm,
even though you may have access through to have a mentor, which is fantastic, or you might have the funds to pay for someone to mentor you. Um, there's some industry leaders that you can tap into, and your regional board will be able to give you an idea of who to actually hit up for that. But if you don't have access to that, but you know someone who's also applying for the award and maybe not competing on the same award category, do it together and keep each other answerable to those criteria and read each other. Like, the Hoppet partnership, when we did our awards together, I really valued their insight to how they viewed my business from their perspective as a supplier for my guests. And I think vice versa was true for them, because they don't see some of the value. Well, they assume it's there. You assume you're reading about it, but they'll actually point it out, and you are able to to really illustrate that a lot better when someone actually says, you do this really well. Did you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Beautiful. Look, Rebecca, I think we've given people loads of different things to think about when they're thinking about awards and their businesses overall. So thank you so much. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for being a winner.
Thank you. Okay.
That's really cool. I don't know. Am I allowed to say that I'm proud of you? I think just watching your growth in the industry and watching what you do and watching your positivity and enthusiasm has been really great. Like there's every single time I've ever talked to you, it's always been on a positive note of what can we do better, what can we achieve, how do we do things. Thanks for being a friend. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for winning awards. And
Pleasure.
I wish you a huge amount of success in the business moving forward.
Thank
And
you.
I'm hoping that we can do some more interviews in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and all the best too for the coming year. I mean, it's big things happening this year,
Exactly, right?
so look forward to seeing what happens.
Beautiful. Now, folks, if you want to reach out to Rebecca, then there'll be the links in the show notes. Also, make sure you get yourself some pajamas from kangarooridge.com.au, is it?
Yes, that's correct.
That's
This is
correct.
not meant to be a plug for my pajamas.
Come
I'm
and
just really
stay.
proud of
Come and
them. That's all.
stay.
They're really comfy.
And folks, if you enjoy the stuff that we're making, make sure that you like and that you subscribe. Give it a share with your networks, especially if you're in Australia in the local area. Let's work together towards making our business better. Rebecca, thank you so much once again. You are amazing, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you very much, and all the best. Have a great day.
Take care.